energy. And so with the energy or the power alone, we have a lot of issues. We have different segments within that sector. Also within the distribution sector, we have government distributors, that's the ECG and NETCO. Then we also have the enclave, that's the free zone enclave or enclave power corporation or company. And so we have private entity that also distribute power in that enclave. Now, over the years, you know, power is not just electricity. You have to generate it. Generating it means you need fuel, you need hydro, you need the green transition or thermal transition, the renewable energy. People will say solar, some will say wind energy, and all the things that makes the power come through the renewable sources. Over the years, Ghana started, as you all know, our first president decided to have hydro power generation. And that hydro power generation, in fact, was for a certain population. Largely, percentage goes to industrialize Akosombo, to VACO, to industrialize the industry enclave, that's the thermal enclave. And a chunk of it, because of the agreement, goes to VACO. The rest is used for other industry as well as domestic consumption. As the population grows, as we industrialize, there's a need for us to increase our power production or power generation. Unfortunately, the successive government did not invest as the population grows. But we all remember that President Rawlings added what we call Bon and then Oakusi to it. Then President Kufuor also added what we call the Boogie Power Enclave. Mm-hmm. And so with the hydro mix, we have Akosombo, Bon, Akuse, and Bui Power that produces hydropower. Then we now realize that we needed more power than the hydro. Hydro alone is not meeting the demand that, you know, the supply needs. And so the new technology is for us to go into what we call thermal production. Now, within the thermal production, it's just like you can use diesel to power generator in this house. But if you are going to a commercial quantity, you can use what we call liquid fuel. You can use natural gas. And so within the thermal generation, you have liquid fuel, you have thermal natural gas, you have diesel fuel. So even within the thermal alone, we have a lot of fuel that you use. And some also use what we call, you know, convected hydrogen or converted water. As you produce, the steam that comes out also produces. So you hear the term combined engine. Mm-hmm. One is producing with the diesel, and then whilst the engine heats up, the steam also produces that power. And then you also have a combined engine where you use natural gas, and then, yeah, in that direction. So within the thermal space, you have a lot of things that goes into the production of fuel. Then we're lucky to find gas in this country because we needed to depend on gas as well as other fuel. When we discovered gas, we were not able to convert the gas into the form that we needed to use for our generation of power. And so we depend, for now, even including now, we depend on what we call the pool from the West Africa gas pipeline, which I believe listeners or viewers know about. So the generation side, as you produce and bring in independent power producers, you must pay them. They are investors. You have to pay them for whatever they produce. We are not able to pay them. And I'll explain why we are not able to pay them. So when it comes to, so I move from the generation side. Now we notice that at that time, VRA was producing. Bui Power will also produce. But when you finish production, you need to transmit it for another person to distribute. And you remember there was a time where we have to separate VRA from Gridco. And Gridco simply means distributors. Why it was needful at that time? Because we noticed that VRA is not able to produce and also distribute. Distribution is a lot. I mean, transmission is a lot of work. I'll give you a typical example. When you go to Asiekpe in the Volta region, the transmitter or the transmission station there was built by Kwame Nkrumah. No, was built before Kwame Nkrumah. That's what our Gold Coast war veterans were using to transmit power. The cable there was so small because the population was not, Now we need a bigger cable, but that has also not been changed. And so Volta region, experiences interruption of power because the cables are very small. We need a bigger cable to carry the power. These are all technical terms. That's why I'm not using the thing. I want to come to our level for people to understand. Now, so from the production or from the generation of power and moving the power from where it was generated to a transmitter or a station for another company to distribute it was taken off from VRA. And Gridco took over and started doing what we call a lot of, renovations, a lot of maintenance, changing cables. You heard they were even changing generators, they were changing transformers and so on and so forth. So they also have a problem because whoever generates power must be paid. Whoever transmits power must also be paid. Now, the distributor is the one who sells electricity to us. And that's, we all know ECG. Mm-hmm. And some where VRA also sells because they have direct contract with VACO. We also have direct contract with some mining companies. And so they also sell. But they are not distributors per se. They are generators. So we should not miss the two of them. They have a direct contract. When the enclave, that's the free zone enclave, was pure, whereas that we needed, reliable source of power. And so ECG should not be the one collecting power. So a new company was formed, a private company was formed called Enclave Power Distribution Center Corporation. And they sell power. They make sure that power goes to, from our checks, they sell the power and collect 100% of the money to wherever it's supposed to go. Unfortunately, our grandfather, ECG, is not able to collect the money that they sell to the people. The revenue is not forthcoming. Why? Because one, there's a problem with what we call commercial losses. People steal power. People do all kinds of things, even from ECG. People use default meters. These are all commercial losses. Then we have distribution losses. Mm-hmm. These are all things that are not going to it. Now, because ECG is not able to collect the money, if I sell this to you, full water bottle to you, you're not able to collect the total amount, and you are giving me half. Who pays for the rest? So there's a shortfall. Since generation, even before I was born. And so there's a bill or there's a debt there called legacy debt from time immemorial. And because ECG has not been able to collect that, coupled with the fact that there's deficiency in their own management, they are not managing effectively. Recently, issues about procurement, to procure their items for 15 years. that they don't need, which came up. And coupled with other things, ECG was run down. And I remember some time ago, the previous government decided to try what was happening at the Enclave Power by having off part of the ECG to private PDS, which I believe most of you fought it and it didn't come on. Thankfully, you guys did very well and did not come on. If that come on, would have sold a heavy national asset, which we could use. But the long and short of all these story dams I'm talking about is that the industry is plagued with issues. First, the generators of power do not have enough money to generate. They generate and they are not being paid. Within the same context of generation, PURC, that is a regulator of power, decided with government some time ago that liquid fuel or liquid product, fuel product, should not be added to our power tariff. So the electricity that we consume, government pays for the liquid fuel that we use. And that is heavy. All because...
Why did the PURC make that decision?
In fact, when we met them recently, we were told like, if they want to increase tariff, very well to take care of that, our tariff will be increased to about 50%. So if you are buying electricity for 100 cities, you should be buying at 150. If you are buying 1,000 per month in a month, you buy like 1,500. And the current government does not want that. They want to cushion Ghanaians, which we understood.
So having decided that liquid fuels should not be part of the calculation of cost, who did they anticipate would take up that cost?
Good. And that's what we are coming to. That is the problem we are facing now. And so even before the liquid fuel issue comes, I'm just looking at the generation part. Before we get to other issue, since that part was not, included in the tariff, we are not able to pay them. Then the transmitters are also being paid, but not fully paid. And so you have a transformer somewhere blown because the transformer has been there for years. It has not been changed. And these are things you need sometimes to maintain them, change them, which has not been done. And so the transformer has blown because there was a thunder. Those days, transformers, it's not like recent transformer that technology has come on stream. And so you need money to change the transformer. Because there was no money, transformers are not being changed. The cables, if you have to move from 63 kV, if you have to move from smaller kV to a bigger cable to carry electricity, and I'll explain this. In power transmission, when you produce power here and travel a distance of 100 kilometers, by the time it gets to the transformer for it to be distributed, the power reduces. So you need a bigger cable to carry the same current. They said electricity doesn't have like, if a cable where they carry them. For it to be carried to that end, you need a bigger. So by the time it gets there, you still have the same quantum because you cannot store electricity. Until recently, you cannot store electricity. So because when they are not able to change some of their cables and transformers, we have these intermittent losses of power on the way. So that is the transmission side. Then I've already mentioned about the distribution side. So the question comes back, who pays for this? Government decides that they will be taking care of liquefied fuel. And so we had a little challenge. We have what we call the legacy debt, which I mentioned that was there before some of us were born. And in 2015, about 10 years ago, the NDC government decided to establish what we call Energy Sector Levy Act at 899 at 2015, which everybody knows as ESLA. Now, what was ESLA supposed to do? ESLA was supposed to collect levies. You know, at that time, we have a levy on petroleum product of 93 cedis, 93 pesos, and some other product using petrol, diesel, marine fuel, and so on. So that was to collect that money. It was added to the product. When you sell, you give it to government, and government uses it to pay for the legacy debt and also takes care of other programs that they supposed to take care of. Unfortunately, the same NDC government lost power in 2016. But by the time they were leaving, the debts that accrued legacy was about 2.1 billion USD. 1.1 billion, 2.1 billion US dollars.
We'll come to the question of debt later.
Yeah.
Looking at the generation mix, you're talking about hydro, you're talking about thermal, and then you're talking about green energy.
Yeah.
3. Are there not other possibilities?
Well, I just mentioned in my introduction that I went to Russia.
Where would nuclear fit?
So you've jammed the gun. I just traveled. I was invited by the Russian Duma, that's the Russian parliament. My colleagues from the Energy Committee invited me to look at the possibility of us introducing nuclear energy. In my interaction with them, and from what I read, the first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, foresaw this long ago. He did not only construct hydro, Akosomo, but he also decided to go to Russia to have what we call nuclear reactor, or in simple terms, nuclear plant that will produce power to us. Now, we all know it was cited at Ghana Atomic Energy. Unfortunately, some government decided to sell it off to Americans. Something that was given to us free of charge from Russia was given to Americans. Today, as we speak now, and from my readings and interaction with the Russians, they are the experts in nuclear power. Nuclear power does not have what we call these environmental challenges that we have with the thermal plant. So why on earth that we will not go that line? We all know the story of our checkered democracy and history. And so we abandon it. And okay, see, this is the time for us to go back. And I'm told when I became the chairman of the Energy Committee, I tried to dig around to see why we are not using nuclear. The previous government decided to go into nuclear somehow. And they floated bids. To my surprise, Russia and China, that has the best technology, were taken out. And they brought in some other countries, including American Europeans. My colleague, and I can say it, because this is no secret. My colleague, who is now the deputy ranking member, was then the deputy minister. And he went to Vienna. You know the nuclear, every nuclear contract should be signed at Vienna. So when he got there, he realized that the contract that he was supposed to sign was not what he saw. And now I must do my heart for this young man that he did not sign. He did not sign because the contract that we sent for it to be reviewed, clearly it was stated that since Russians, their proposal during the bid was that even the nuclear by-waste or nuclear waste will be given to us. And nuclear by-waste, you know what we can use it for? Fertilizer and so on and so forth. But the contract that he went there to sign, the new contract drafted by the Vienna, in a nuclear station says that the byways should be given to the contractor. So my friend said he was not going to. He came back and had his own backlash with his government. But that was a good sign. So when I went to Russia, the first question they asked was, oh, what about the bid? And I said, well, the bid is on ice. We have come to power. And so when I get back, I will talk to His Excellency and see whether we can reopen the tender. I'm not saying we should give it to Russia at all costs, but I can tell you, Uncle KWESI, that the Russians are the best. Look at the time that we have our first reactor. Before I was born, and that reactor would have produced power to us. In my interaction, Rosatom is a good company that is into energy production in Russia. As pledged that if we agree, they'll give us 200 megawatts of floating batch, just like what we call America, of nuclear plant. 200 megawatts floating batch of nuclear power.
Where would it float?
Oh, we have to credit. Your hometown, we'll put it in the credit. And issues that we discussed, but I cannot bring it up. And so I came back. I met His Excellency, the President. I told him he was so excited. Already he knows about it. And so he has instructed the Minister for Energy and Green Transition to reopen the tenders. I'm not saying in any way that will be given to Russians, but we'll open the tenders and whoever qualifies, according to our terms, will be given. And nuclear is cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't see why some people from so-called West who want to dictate to us what we want. I don't get it at all. Anyway, I don't want to get passionate about that.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break here. And we are in conversation with Honorable Emmanuel KWESI Bedzra, who is Committee Chairman of the Energy Committee of Parliament. And we are discussing the energy crisis in Ghana. Now, when we come back, I'd like us to move forward. And I'm going to ask, what is this crisis? What are the essential elements of this crisis? Short break.
Mido, Ghana Biana. I'm going to you about this every time I say, baby, shit. My gosh.
Junior! I'm saying so enough for me, dear, no. Sister Cospa, it's a winning gas. I'm using the why. Why?
Down Yankanawa.
Sister Cos. Use gas. Gas ye fast, ye easy, ye convenient.
LPG, let me see your hand.
Yeah, welcome back to Talk Time, and we are in conversation with Honorable Emmanuel KWESI Bedzra, who is the Committee Chair of the Energy Committee of Parliament. Now, Honorable, so much talk about a crisis in the energy sector. What is the crisis?
So, I can say the crisis is simple, that we owe a lot. We are not able to meet our demand. We are industrializing. Currently, we have electricity to what we call power to population. About 90% of our communities are hooked onto the national grid. The successive governments did not make provision for power generation and transmission and distribution. And so we have crisis in the sense that we don't have enough fuel, because we owe fuel producers and fuel suppliers. We owe generators. And so from petroleum sector we are owing. Then the power sector too we are owing. That's the one side. The other side has to do with technical things, the transmission, which I mentioned, and then the distribution side, which I also mentioned. When you put all this together, Ghana, more or less, is in crisis. In fact, we're in crisis even before we came. And you
how much do we owe?
Some figures are saying we owe close to about 90 billion cedis. Now, we owe independent power producers. We owe VRA. That's the government producers. We owe petroleum OMCs or BDCs. We owe transmitters, and we even owe ECG themselves. So we are owing. Now, the breakdown, I don't have the breakdown here, but we are owing so much, over 90 billion. How do we pay this debt? I mentioned that from the beginning, in 2015, when His Excellency John Mahama realized that there's a looming crisis, then he put this ESLA in place. I will say, for the last 8 years that we put the ESLA together in 2015, and when we left power, before we left power, we had a debt, accumulated debt of 2.1 billion USD. Today, as of January, when we took over, we owe about 3.5 billion USD. So there is an increment on that debt. What happened? We thought that having the ESLA in place, as we, takes the revenue or collect the revenue, that money will be used directly to pay those debts. Unfortunately, when the previous government came, they decided to use the ESLA as a vehicle to go into a bond market to borrow money. And so we had what we call the ESLA PLC. They decided to collateralize it and have what we call ESLA PLC, and took the ESLA PLC, a company, with the guarantee of collecting small, those money, 93 pesos and so on, to pay for those debts. And took so much money, and instead of paying the debt, they use the money for something else. We met with them, the ESLA PLC, because they have to be dissolved, because we are no more interested. The current government is no more interested in ESLA PLC. We met them, that's the Finance Committee and Energy Committee. We met them, and it's not looking good. So we decided they should come out with their books. They shouldn't just tell us figures. Come out and tell us, so far, how much have you collected? And what did you use the money for? Then we'll tell the good people of Ghana, they went to the bond market, they borrow so much, and they use it for so and so and so. Because you cannot use our legacy to go and borrow money and use it on something else. What's the reason why the ESLA PLC, the ESLA was established, will not be accomplished? And so we are waiting for them, we're meeting them, and then we'll come out to say.
Do we know what the money was used to pay? I mean, it was used as collateral.
Yes, of course.
But the money was still in the account.
Yes, the money was there. So we asked them to come and tell us. They just told us, okay, we collected so much. They should come and tell us, give us details. And when the details are out, I'll let you have it. It is unfortunate that you're giving your power to somebody to take care of you, and the person will abuse it. And this abuse must stop somewhere. They couldn't account for the whole amount fully. They've been the Registrar General or Company Register asked that they should be stopped because that's the end of them, but they have to hold on until we finish, we audit them and finish them before we discharge them. So ESLA PLC, as it speaks, is no longer there. Because of that, and you remember that in 2017, they introduced, 2017, they've introduced what we call the street levy. street lightning levy onto the same ESLA. They introduced it. It's a line item. Then again, in 2021, they introduced something pollution levy. What do we call it? Pollution levy, right? Pollution levy onto the fuel levy. They introduced as a line item. So from 2015, my colleagues from the other side added more item to the ESLA. So when you are buying fuel, you are paying so much because of the introduction. Now, pollution levy is used for sanitation. And you all know where that money goes. Whether it is really used for cleaning our sanitation. When somebody said that when I become a president, I'll make sure Accra become the cleanest city. I don't know whether that has been done. And today, as it rains, we borrow so much, garage, we cannot even construct drains. So you ask yourself, where has the money gone to? So the SLR PLC should tell us where those money have gone to. With the new introduction, which I know you'll be coming to, it is not a new tax or line item. It's just an increment of existing tax. We are saying that, I don't know whether I should go there.
Yeah, go there.
We are saying that when we came to power in 2025, January, and then His Excellency took over, he manages the economy very well. That at the time that we came, fuel price was about 17 cedis per liter. He manages the economy very well. At the time that he came, $1 was being sold, we all know, 15, 16 cedis. But today, you can sell $1 for 10, 12 cedis, 10, 11 cedis. So there is a windfall of how much it was when the budgets were read and how much it is now. Then on the world market, the product, that is the petroleum product, has also come down. The pricing window has come down. And so we said, well, we have reduced fuel to some extent. Now we've noticed that we have so much debt and we have to be buying liquid fuel every time. So instead of reducing further, we'll not reduce. Let's end it there. Let's add just 1 CD to petrol, diesel, marine fuel, leaving LPG and kerosene. Yes, because we don't want to destroy our forest. And so that shortfall will be given to, suppliers of liquid fuel to supply liquid fuel. Mind you, we need not less than 12.6 billion every year for only liquid fuel. And the money will be raking out from this 1 city, just 5.7 billion. So government will still have to top up to pay for the liquid fuel, which answers your question that who will be paying? Government will be paying the rest. Even with the 1 city, we're paying the rest. Unless we raise it again to 2 cities, which I don't think His Excellency John Mahama will be willing to raise it. That also has happened. That legacy debt, let's continue collecting the 93 and so on to pay the legacy debt. But the 1 city that is coming on in will be dedicated for the purchasing of fuel, liquid fuel. I'm calling liquid fuel because that's the name. I don't know how I can go down. Liquid fuel to propel our thermal, to generate power for us. It's just like buying diesel into your engine for the engine to drink and also come out with electricity.
So we have a power crisis.
Yeah.
There's a huge level of indebtedness. This 1 CD levy, can it resolve the problem?
Not at all. Not at all. So there are issues. I mentioned that the 1 CD levy is for just the fuel. What about all the debts that we accrued before introducing this? And then the difference between the 12.6 and that of the 5.7. Who takes care of it continuously? We will not resolve it. How do we resolve it? 1, we have deficit in collection of our revenue. That's ECG. ECG is not able to collect all the money. And so His Excellency says that if you have Enclave Power Company, a private company, is able to collect 100% and they are giving their share, why don't you don't privatize it, but go into contract, PPP contract with KWESI PRATT. Oh, Abele pay here, can you collect this place for us? They give you the areas to collect. You collect it, they give you your percentage that you need as a collector. That's the link that His Excellency is talking about. If we do that, and we have efficient collection of our revenue, I believe that will also solve one problem one way or the other. But
why do we assume that private participation will lead to greater efficiency?
Good.
It's an assumption.
It's an assumption, but currently we have one that is doing very well.
It's only supplying to the free zone enclave.
Good. So why don't you try U2 and see? Maybe you will be better than even the enclave power. You may even collect more than that. It's an assumption, but not only assumption, but it's been...
If we can measure efficiency levels, and we can also clearly put a thumb on what leads to the inefficiency, then we can correct it no matter who is giving the service.
So it's not only that link that we want to give up. We are saying that ECG itself must look into itself and correct some measures. Fortunately, the current MD, Mr. Pepena, is doing well. I mean, if ECG can decide that I want to buy so much container loads of items that you don't need, clearly it tells you that the previous manager, well, they were porous. They don't have ideas how to manage the place. You owe, and you still want to owe through procurement of items that you don't need. I mean, it doesn't work anywhere. In your office here, you already have debts, and you want to pile debts on yourself. Is that how to manage this place? It doesn't work like that. So ECG has a problem. Not only collection of debt, not only the procurement, but there were other things. The same ECG staff goes to people's home, do the bypassing, and people do not pay electricity bill. So there is a problem with ECG because ECG is the collector of the revenue for all from the petroleum suppliers to the producers to the distributors, the transmitters. Without ECG's efficiency, we will not have any proper, system of collecting revenue and payment of this. I don't think also that we should privatize ECG. For me, I'll be against it because of where I stand and my understanding of politics. It will not be in the best interest. So the best thing is for the management. Can we introduce private sector, management concept into ECG? Yes, that's why ECG was moved from corporation into a company limited, so that you can have the private sector concept. Now, if you have a former managing director working under the board, I'll give a typical example. And we know who was the board chair then, ECG. Sat down as a board chairman for this rot to go on. It clearly tells you that both the board, the chairman and the board, and the former management members have questions to answer. From the board chair to every member of the board, and the management have questions to answer. If we can correct it, that the current board and current management can bring the private sector management concept into the public sector, which will give us more efficient way of managing, I believe that some of the problem will be solved. The last one, which is Excellency tax.
Before we go to the last one, private sector. What is the motive force? The motive force is the accumulation of profit. Monetary profit.
Exactly.
The public sector's motive force is not the accumulation of, monetary profit. So this emphasis on handing over to the private sector. So really, what is it meant to achieve?
That's why some of us are against any privatization of ECG. When PDC came out and...
but you keep talking about the private sector model.
I said private sector model working within the public sector. ECG is fully Ghanaian, 100% public. It's just a concept. If you are managing this place well, because you are not a public sector, you are a private sector, and you move with this management concept into your office. How many people do you need here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Why do you have more than 10 engineers? Whilst I need 1 or 2 engineers. That will bring down the cost, isn't it? I need, the last time I came, you don't have these cameras. You've changed the cameras. These cameras will be more, efficient and more effective than the old cameras that, how many people do you have? Only 1 person. But you are managing your place. This is the concept I'm talking about. I'm not saying that go and start engineering with the private sector, or your profit motive. You look at how much do we need per month. You look at your financials. You look at your equipment holding. Look at all your assets. What do I need to run the place, effectively or efficiently and make things work? That's what we are saying, that bring that concept into. Go to ECG.
Let's take a short break, and when we come back, I'd like to ask, the minority in Parliament says that they've made many suggestions for resolving the issue. So when we come back, I'd like to find out what are the suggestions that they've made. We are chair of the Energy Committee. And why are you not taking their suggestions on board? Short break.
Mido, Ghana Biana. I'm going to you about this. I say, baby, shit. Mangashi.
Junior! I'm saying so now for maybe the Sister Cospa. It's a winning gas. I'm using the why. Why?
Down Yankana wa.
Sister Cos. Use gas. Gas ye fast, ye easy, ye convenient. Wow.
LPG, let me see your hand.
Well, hello and welcome to this. Yeah, welcome back to Talk Time. And we are in conversation with Honorable Emmanuel KWESI, who is the committee chair of the Energy Committee of Parliament. Now, Honorable, your colleagues on the minority, so they've given you all the solutions. And they don't understand why your government is beating about the bush when they're giving them all the solutions. Well, what solutions have they given them?
Yes. So in our conversation with the minority caucus have been in power for 8 years. If they're able to solve the doom, so they would have solved it. They couldn't solve it. And so if we have come out with a more clear way of resolving the issue, I mean, you remember when His Excellency John Mahama took over, there was this talk about in town that there will be light off. I mean, there will be doom saw. They were pushing it as if they knew something that was going to happen. Unfortunately, the man is on top of the issue. And the young man, John Jinapo, is also doing extremely well. And so their dream, their expectation did not come true. And so things are working well, even though within this context of crisis of not having money and the debts that we owe. What were their suggestions? Their suggestion was that we should have discussed this with them. That was one. Two, the windfall that we have, that we're talking about, as a result of the prudent management of the economy, that we have a stable currency, and that is our currency is appreciating against the international currencies, and also the windfall that we have with the pricing of crude or pricing of oil from the international market. That differences should be given to Ghanaians to enjoy. These are the two suggestions they brought. We should have discussed with them. And I kept telling people that if you miss any liar in Ghana, don't miss MPP. If you miss anybody, you're on your way and you miss, they say this person is a liar. When you say MPP person, you know this one. I've never seen any political actor in this country from my short period in politics who claim to be with that group will tell you anything that is the truth. I have always been worried that we, the political elite, should live above the bar. We were not voted into power for our own gain. If it's us making money, why don't you go into private practice? Why don't you go and make money for yourself? Then come to power just to deceive Ghanaians. I mean, we all know the deception, all the things they've said and what they've done. On Friday, last week Friday, when the minister came, the bill was referred to Finance Committee and Leadership of Energy Committee. So that includes me, my ranking, my vice, and a ranking member, and a deputy ranking member of Energy. Then all the Finance Committee members, including the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Ami, were all there when the minister read the memorandum. And so they raised an issue. Oh, this one was, they want to consult. So they consult and they said, they will not agree. So what do you agree? What is it that you don't understand about this bill? Oh, they should have known some years. We should have informed them. So, oh, but this is not the first time the bill is going to certificate of agency, because we realize that the next window will be 16th. What I mean by window is the next pricing window of petroleum product on the world market will be next of in 16th. So we needed to put this in place. So I mean, we are not going to bury Guardians and say, okay, we are increasing fuel price. It's not going to increase. So this one has nothing to do, but because they want to go to town. So we all agree that, okay, then the report that we are sending to court, the plenary for discussion, should be what we call majority report, not consensus report. So why would they not consulted? Consultation is not a day, it's a process. So we went to the floor, we took the report, and whilst taking the report, because they knew, somebody mentioned that, oh, the e-levy that we took, we are bringing another e-levy. And they asked, oh, this is not electronic levy. Electronic levy in any case is a tax. This one, you are just adding to a levy. We are not introducing any tax. That we have to consult Ghanaians, that we are introducing a new tax. This is how the tax will look at. The tax is already there. The levy is already there. This is a simple understanding. But because they wanted to equalize and say E is E, energy is equal to electronic levy, they decided to leave the room.
Are you saying positively that they haven't brought any new suggestions?
No.
Nothing.
Uncle KWESI, maybe you should invite them. I know they come here. They should give you one suggestion. So the first suggestion was that we do not consult them. 2, Ghanaians should enjoy, and that's the second leg. Ghanaians should enjoy this windfall. So I asked my colleague, ranking member, we are in crisis. You left debt for us. You mismanaged the sector. Do you want us to continue enjoying and then we fall into the pit than solving it this way?
But how do you enjoy when your electricity supply is going to shut down?
So that they can laugh at us, that they said it. John Mahama cannot, solve the doom so. That's all they were looking for. So when you hear or you see them talking about e-levy, we took away leave and brought e-levy, and that ours is even 100%. This is all about populism. All about, I don't want to use the word lie again. All about telling Ghanaians that they are equalizing because we took E out and brought E again. And I want to clear that it is not a new tax. The levy was there. We only added 1 CD. If you say it's too much, the 1 CD is too much, then we should sit down. Because some of us were saying that even that 1 CD, you are not going to go to the pump from sitting. It will not change. If you are even lucky, it will even come down. It will come down because when the world market is coming down, the prices will be going down. That's what we are saying. But that windfall, we want to use it to buy more fuel so that you can have light. Period.
Honorable, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Uncle KWESI. I'm grateful.
So very much. Well, viewers, we have been in conversation with Honorable Emmanuel KWESI Bejra, Member of Parliament for Whole West and Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Energy. We'll be talking about the energy situation, the crisis, the solution, and so on. I've learned quite a lot, and I'm hoping that you also picked a thing or two. Keep your dial on Pan-African Television until we meet again next week. But until then, it's goodbye from all of us in Pan-African Television, George Viner, the producer, Adam Lumo, the director, and all of us at Pan-African Television. See you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Truly African.
Ha! Saka wo dey some look fast. Baba, me again. Nessa wo yale. Me kwa adwuma mu, wo hia me nti. Mentimi antrent ma fra me doctor.